Can I be heard now? I believe can I be heard? That's crazy. I just went 3 minutes not saying anything. That's folly. That's Satan. I don't even know how that happened. Give me a strong con if you can hear it. The water. All praise to the Most High. Right? Procrastination. Right? Lost my train of thought. Yeah, that's really Satan. But the reason and the purpose of this video is procrastination is the spirit, it's the demon that holds you back from what you're supposed to do, the person you're supposed to be through the spirit, and how you're supposed to excel. Right? Like for example, what I was saying earlier before, obviously, and when muted, um, when you have procrastination, it's like it goes as this. You having wicked thoughts. You feel your flesh starting to take over. You start imagining things. You're going astray from being spiritual like you're supposed to, right? Applying a precept to walking through the spirit, as brothers always say. So now what you're doing is you see that, like the scripture says, know ye your own selves, prove your own selves. Like you know yourself, you know your vices, the spirits that you battle with, right? But at the end of the day, you're not making, any changes and any implementations to fast. You're not making any implementations to pray more, to be on the phone with a brother or a sister for you sisters as well. You're not making any changes in regards to your regimen, right? So you can overcome these things and stop tearing, stop delaying, right? Don't go back essentially, right? Procrastination is up there with lust. Like when people say, oh, well, what demon are you battling with lust? Lust, it's a broad spectrum. When you're dealing with lust, you're talking about through your flesh, through lewd sights, through adulteries, through fornication. There's different many avenues and traffics for lust. But when you're talking about procrastination, it could be you tearing. I'm gonna do it tomorrow, spirit. Not right now. Maybe later. I'm not in the mood, or I'm sleepy, right? But procrastination gonna lead to slothfulness. Procrastination is gonna lead to idleness. Procrastination is gonna lead to a lot of things. And I got a few precepts and a few accounts I want to go over that will pretty much go into this demon and spirit, how to prevent it, how to overcome it, and to walk in a better light, most high willing, through the spirit, right? So let me share my screen and we'll get started. As far as Salakia to those who I started this live and wasn't able to hear the whole thing. I don't know. That's just say. Anyways, I want to get a definition. This is the definition of procrastination. It says the action of delaying or postponing something, right? Delaying tactics, stalling, temporizing, hesitating, vacillation. So these are some of the synonyms, of course, but nevertheless, this is the definition. It says, what does procrastination really mean? It says procrastination is the voluntary or irrational delay. That's what happens when you procrastinate. You really just irrational at the moment, right? You're hesitating on what you really got to do, what you really got to get done, how you got to prioritize it and take care of task, even when knowing it will lead to negative consequences. And when we go through these accounts within the scriptures, all of these accounts led to negative consequences. Same thing applies to our life today and what we go through. It says often involving prioritizing short-term comfort. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I'm not in the mood right now. Maybe later. If you sure? Is it really that serious? And then that gives a door an opportunity for Satan, right? It says like avoiding stress or fear over long-term goals. And it's more than laziness. So slothfulness is a part of it, of course, but it's more than that. It's rooted in what? Emotional regulation. And so really just, going back to your spirit, essentially. Self-regulation failures, it's a self-defeating pattern because even though you're supposed to, in this truth, you're supposed to have a discipline. In this truth, you're supposed to have a regimen and what you're going to get done on a daily basis, a schedule, as most brothers like to go into. But if you don't do that, you're defeating the purpose of the achievements that you're trying to amount to. It says where your brain chooses immediate relief because what feels good, social media over tackling an important, often anxiety-inducing activity, creating a cycle of guilt and stress, guilt, and poor performance. Yeah, because essentially, just say you that person where I gotta watch this code cut, I gotta watch this breakdown, I gotta go into this, I gotta start, hopping into this topic, this subject, this history, right? This understanding. And then you on social media, you going through your phone. You laying down. I'm gonna turn on this TV show. I'm gonna binge watch. I'm gonna take my time here. Right? You're giving your mind and you're giving your time and your day away to vanity, right? Instead of being more spiritual, instead of being more productive, right? And don't get it twisted. We all, even including myself, have fallen to this. You're on your phone, especially with the reels that come out nowadays. You look at one reel, now you start swiping. Now you start talking. 15 minutes go by, an hour go by. Now you get a text from here. Now somebody bothers you here. Now you get a phone call here. And then the core of what you was meant to do, you never got done with it. You never went through it, right? So let's hop into these precepts, because what does the scripture says, concerning this truth and what we're supposed to, the spirit that we're supposed to move in, like Ecclesiastes. So like Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter. This is Ecclesiastes 12. I want to get Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter, and I'm gonna start at verse 10. It says, "Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest." Meaning, whatever you're supposed to get done in this lifetime, do it now. Do it today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for a week from now. Don't wait for months from now. Handle it, right? If you want to increase through the spirit, whether it be wisdom, knowledge, understanding, history, sharp with the precepts, you want to be a pillar within the camp, handling specific roles or duties, right? Whatever you amount to do within this truth, however you deem to do it, as long as it's done in sincerity, and righteousness, of course, you got to do it with all your power, all your strength, right? Even on the carnal level, you want to provide for your household, provide for your family, reach a certain amount of income. Now, of course, we understand that this world is falling on a deeper level, but if it be the Most High's will and mercy, He will take care of you. And at the end of the day, even while He wants to take care of you, through that mercy and that faith, you still have to put in the work, and you have to do so diligently each and every day, right? So that's why you got to do as much as you can, however you can, because you only get one life. You only have one vessel. So kind of being slack, you're not diligent, you're not doing enough, and you taking your time, and you're not really serious or adamant on what you say you're supposed to do, and you're not gonna amount to that. You're gonna wax worse, right? Or you might not never get it done. You may not ever accomplish, right? And that's gonna leave more room for Satan, right? Because I want to grab this. I'm gonna grab this precept, 1 Peter, the 5th chapter, 1 Peter 5. It's the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5, and verse 8. It says what? It says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." Right? So if you're one of these individuals that Satan has a target on your back, he just waiting to attack and get the green light. Guess what? You might, first of all, you want to fast immediately. Right? You battling with demons. You may be falling out the truth. You may be slipping in certain areas. You may be falling and you haven't told anybody, you haven't confessed any sins, but it's dire. Then you gotta make an adjustment. You have to make an adjustment. Because if you don't make an adjustment, it's only gonna wax worse and worse for you, right? Because you have to be diligent. You cannot be slothful. You cannot put off from day to day. Like I tell you in the Sirach, the 5th chapter and the 7th verse, you want to be adamant about serving Yahweh Shem Shai, your people, and making your calling and election sure in these last days, right? And that's why we got to go through these precepts to get the understanding, to know what we're going to do and how we're going to go about it, and what happened to our forefathers in certain accounts, right? What they went through, what they experienced, and how we have to make an adjustment as well. Slacky Israel. So let's go to this. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 119, and I believe verse where I think I passed it. Psalms chapter 119 and verse number 104. It says, "Through thy precepts I get understanding." So through the precepts, you have to understand what and how to take care of certain spirits and demons. Anything we all, especially if you're in this truth, you understand the commandments of the Most High, the law, the faith of Yahweh Shai, you should know that everything that you need to overcome and get through concerning whatever situation and the different aspects thereof, they're through these precepts, right? You want to stop the worrying, you want to stop anxiety, you want to stop depression, right? You want to stop anger and wrath. You want to stop procrastination. You want to stop lust. You have to go through the precepts and get the understanding. Therefore, I hate every false way. Yeah, and especially in this video for procrastination, because guess what? At the end of the day, when you're going through procrastination, you're not accomplishing much. You're not accomplishing your goals. You're not reaching to the levels that you want to reach. Because why? You're dealing with this demon. So now you have to get an understanding to overcome it, right? So let me get this account, because what we're dealing with is really just through the flesh, right? It's through the flesh, and it's one of the most corrupt things. Well, I appreciate on the grab. One of the corrupt things that we have to deal with. I'm not sure why that happened. Shalaki. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the wicked, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places," right? And that's what we deal with. Shalaki. That's what we deal with each and every day. Spiritual wickedness in high places. I believe another brother went into it. There's councils in the third heaven each and every day, like it tells you in First Kings chapter 22, I believe 19 on down, right? Where you have spirits, having a council, right? Who to overthrow, right? Who to deceive, right? Who to kill, right? Who to take out, who to slow down, right? Who can stir up certain, and be an adversary, etc. And all these things is going on with us as well. Did not that happen with Job in the first chapter, when the Most High asked Job, what you doing essentially? Job chapter 1 and verse 7 to go, verse 6 all the way down, right? And then what did he say? I go to and fro among the earth. So Satan is always watching you as well, right? So understanding that, we got to make those adjustments. It's the book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse number 41. Right, because it's all essentially within the flesh. Of course, it's a spirit that's overtaking us essentially, but you still have to make an adjustment. It's like in sports. Like for those of you who ever play basketball, football, you have to make a game plan. You have to make a blueprint to how you're gonna overcome certain things, to how you're gonna build upon certain weaknesses. Right? You may not have the strongest foundation, but that doesn't mean that you just can't build upon it and strengthen it. That could be more structurally sound, right? So it's the book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse number 41. It says, "Watch and pray." So you have to be observative, right? You got to be aware and pray. I mean, you got to be diligent in this, right? You got to have faith in that prayer as well, that ye enter not into temptation, because that temptation coming with procrastination is going to be constant, right? Each and every day. And maybe I want to sleep a little bit longer. I want to roll over here. I'm going to flick my toes. I'm going to kind of chill. I'm not going to, I don't want to be bothered right now. Do not disturb, right? And then when that happens, that's a door open for Satan. I'm going to turn on this TV show. I'm going to watch an episode. I'm going to I ain't watched anime in this long. My wife showed me this. I want to watch this movie. It kind of just came out, right? Right. I'm going to go to the gym, but I can fast right after, even though I know that I'm probably going to be too tired. And, I might not get to it. May be late. So I'll do it tomorrow. Right. That ye enter not into temptation. It says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And that's true. Each and every day, especially for those of you trying to be fervent as you can and on fire, as, brothers like to always say, guess what? You're always thinking of the next video you want to go into, the next topic you want to go over, the next current event that you're watching currently, right? And trying to align it with prophecies, get sharper in certain prophecies and understandings and practical knowledge, etc. But it's the flesh that's weak that wants to tear you down, right? Through slothfulness, through slumber, right? It tell you even much study is the weirdness of the flesh. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, I believe in the 12th verse as well, right? So this flesh is weak. It's corruptible. It's a terrible body to be in. But nevertheless, we still have to make the adjustments, because guess what? We've been given, the formula how to do so. And certain men and women before us were able to do these things as well, right? It's no secret that you're battling this. It's no new thing under the sun. It's not something that this demon I've seen a million of you, right? But it's possible for you to overcome it, right? And it's hard. It's extremely hard, because, and it's aggravating as well. It's annoying because you know the potential that you may have within you, but you never fully reach it or amount to it. Why? Because you putting off from day to day, right? And then that's discouraging as well. Procrastination. I've always say this to brothers: one spirit always leads to a multitude of spirits as well. It's like a gateway. One spirit may lead to another gateway of spirits, right? And of course, we understand that with certain precepts as well. Like in the book of Matthew, chapter 12, I want to say verse 42, 43 on down. When a man gets worse, what happens to him? The spirits that, unfolds. But at the end of the day, somebody may think, well, I don't deal with procrastination. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. It happens from time to time. But that's all Satan is doing. He's experimenting on you, calculating you, analyzing you, watching you move. What gets to you more? How can I throw him off more? Right? You may not be dealing with the biggest of demons each and every day, but it's the little things that hinder you from the progression, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai that you're supposed to elevate to, right? So this is the book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 15. It says what? For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. For what I hate, that do I. Right? That may be hard for, certain, people to hear this because, that old English. So I'm going to break it down. It says, for that which I do, I allow not. Meaning, at the end of the day, I don't want to be slothful. I don't want to just kind of roll over. I don't want to just kind of like chill, kind of, take a step back, kind of just let this demon overtake me, right? Kind of just, just be confounded for the most part on how I'm supposed to overcome this. I've been battling this for weeks. I've been battling this for months, for years. I've got counsel, but nothing changed. So you don't want to be that individual, right? For that which I do, I allow not. You just keep allowing this spirit to overtake you, and it's not even just procrastination. It's lust. It's a different emotion. You dealing with drugs, women. You don't want those demons. You don't allow it. For that which I would, that do I not. So it's times when you would do good, you're not ended up doing it, right? You ended up, taking, backtracking, backsliding. But what I hate, that do I. So now you falling into the things that you essentially never wanted to in the first place, right? And Paul is giving a synopsis or an example on that, and the fight between the lust and I said the lust, the flesh versus the spirit, right? It says what? For if I then do that which I would not, I consent unto the law. It is good. Meaning when you fall, you slip, you understand your weaknesses, your flaws, your vices. You got to consent to the word of the Most High, right? Through the precepts, you're going to get that understanding. You're going to know what to do, how to overcome it, right? Get that counsel from brothers, right? And that's a serious thing. Don't just be out there alone. Because the Most High said, they that fear the Lord spake often one to another, and it was written in the book, Malachi chapter 3 and verse number 16, right? And I want to bring this account out of I think, an underrated account concerning procrastination and what happened to this brother, after he was told to do something and he wasn't, right? From the mighty prophet Jonah. So it's the book of Jonah, chapter 1, and it started at verse 1. It says, now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. So the Most High, just like Jonah was given the Most High had given Jonah a commandment to prophesy and cry against the wickedness of this city, right? And that's spiritually us today. The Most High has told you to be a watchman. The Most High has told you to be a light unto the world. The Most High has told you, to flee from this world, flee from the flesh, the love of this world, because it's not the love of the Most High. It's 1 John 2 and 16, right? For their wickedness is come up before me. So the same thing the Most High told Jonah, he's telling us through the Spirit as well. So verse 3, it says, but Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish. I mean, basically, he did his own thing. He did what he wanted to do. He didn't want to do that, essentially, right? From the presence of Yahweh, and went down to Joppa. And he found a ship to go to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So, and this isn't a prime example of a lot of our people, and even some of ourselves, when we first heard this truth. The Most High is calling you. The Most High stretched out his hand, but you can't put that weed down. You can't put that blunt. You can't put that drug, those pills. You can't put that woman away. Just certain vices. It's hard to just let go. You can't put away the gambling. You can't put away certain things in this world. So you do your own thing. You running from the Lord, right? You procrastinating. You putting that off. It's not right now. Not my time. I'm not in the mood, right? But verse 4, it's Yahweh sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. Meaning the Most High may put a stumbling block in your way just to confound you, right? Just to chastise you, or of course judge you, right? Because you going the hell off. That's what happens when you procrastinate. You're really going the hell off. You're putting off the Lord, the Most High, the God of armies, the high and lofty one, the King of terrors. It's just not right now, right? I'll study later. It's really not that big a deal. Am I really being distracted? No, I'm that fast. It wasn't as good. So you make an excuse to start another one later that it might not start, right? The Most High may really set a stumbling block before you, right? So we always got to be cognizant and aware of these things. It's the same thing that happened to Jonah. And don't the same thing kind of happen to our lives as well? When we go through, certain things and we're taking our time, unfortunately through the spirit. We're distracted. Our minds is elsewhere. And then the Most High kind of jam us up to kind of put us back on that path, that straight path, right? So let's get another account, right? And of course, essentially, yeah, Jonah. When you read this account, you got ears to hear. Jonah essentially did what the Lord told him to do, and he understood that it was his fault to why he was put in that situation. Why? Because he was procrastinating, right? He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, right? So it's the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 11, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. It says, "And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when the kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried at Jerusalem." So you got the king, David, he's tarrying at Jerusalem while all of Israel is at war, right? And spiritually, we're at war right now. We're really at war right now through the spirit, through the principalities and darkness of this world. Of course, we battle, the flesh, but we ultimately understand that as spirits as well. But ultimately, and then we're battling what? We're battling to get the kingdom. We're battling to set Jerusalem, heaven, here on earth, right? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Luke chapter 17 and start at verse 20, right? But David tarried at Jerusalem. And what happened when David tarried? What happens when you start to tarry? What are the side effects and when you start to, slow down? When you start to give up? When you start to kind of, you in a daze, right? You start daydreaming, right? It says, "And it came to pass at the eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof, and he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was beautiful to look upon." So, and while David is tarrying, now something is set up. A stumbling block is put in his path. A beautiful woman. David the king, you got riches, you got wealth, mighty honor, etc. You even have more wives. But now another stumbling block is put in your path. Why? Because once again, he wasn't doing what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be at war. So essentially, David is going off. It says what? "And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" So even, most high willing, you have a person in your life, a friend, a counselor, etc. Or at least most high willing, a righteous brother or sister right next to you to be like, what? Hey, you're going off right now? You got to change. Like, I don't like the spirit that's on you. I don't like the spirit you're moving in. I don't appreciate it. And this is what it could lead to, right? And that's what happened to David. This is somebody else's wife. What's going on with you? You already know this is a sin unto death at this time, right? So, you good, your mind right, but that's what happened when your mind's not where it's supposed to be in war, right? Focus upon the Lord. When you read other accounts, especially in 1st and 2nd Samuel, David always relied heavily on the Lord in almost every situation. Damn near, really every situation, right? When you read, not just the accounts with he was running away from Saul, the accounts when the Amalekites came to Ziklag in 1 Samuel the 30th chapter, right? Before he fought Goliath as well, and many others, right? The Most High was Salaki. David was always asking the Most High for counsel, for wisdom, or what to do. But right in this moment, guess what? You're not doing what you're supposed to do. The flesh will start to take over, right? And then, you you brothers and sisters that read this account, you know what happened, right? David went off essentially, right? So let me get this next account. Every single time you start to delay, you start to put off, your mind starts to wander, your eye starts to go astray. You're prone to wickedness. You're going to be prone to another spirit, another demon, right? It's the book of Exodus chapter 32 and start at verse 1. And it reads, and when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we will not, which is become of him. Right? But this is the point I want to make, where it says, what? That when the people saw that Moses delayed. So now that when God forbid you ever get put in the spirit where you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what to do. You've been given strict instructions by the Lord, you know, so on and so forth. And now your mind starts to go astray, right? Because when you read this account, what happens? You start to go into idolatry. As literally what happened. Aaron, you read verse 2, it says what? And Aaron said unto them, break off your golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. So your mind starts to go astray, right? You start to think upon other things. You start backsliding, walking backwards. Why? Just because, even in this society right now, well, it's been some time. It's been more than 400 years. Yeah, Babylon's falling, but, you have people that move in this spirit. You have people that, like brothers always say, fall out the truth every single day, right? And they seeing that, this world, even though it's going down, it seemed like it's getting delayed more and more. Why? And those people are losing faith. That's what happened in this chapter, right? The people lost faith in Moses, how he delayed to come down, and they just essentially went off, right? And they wasn't hesitant to do righteousness. They wasn't fervent in that. No, they went straight to wickedness, straight to evil, right? Straight to sin, right? And they got judged for it, right? Let me go to Matthew, because Yahushua says something, pivotal that I always like to bring out concerning procrastination, concerning this spirit, concerning overcome these things. Don't get too much ahead of yourself, right? Because that's another thing. When you procrastinating, guess what? You start to become ahead of yourself sometimes, right? You're like, all right, this is good. This is good. I already planned this out. This is good. But Satan is right there waiting for you, right? To slip, right? To take your foot off the gas, right? To really just take your eyes off the ball, essentially. So it's the book of Matthew, chapter 6, and verse number 33. Yahushua said what? But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, right? This 34 is the point. It says, take therefore no thought for tomorrow, for tomorrow shall take the thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, right? And that's facts. I want to give a quick account. I was at work I want to say the last 2 weeks ago, and I had a brother, at the time, he was at my job, he worked with me, and nevertheless, I woke up, I had a great mighty Sabbath, was feeling good through the spirit, I had a great week, fasted, etc., great studying, all of that. And then nevertheless, the next day, the first day of the week, I go into work on Sunday, and then, the boss is mad. He's just going off. He just going off on my man's because he was late. The brother that I know that's supposed to work with me, I know he's late, but spirits just started to, come out of nowhere, right? And that kind of messed up the rest of the day. The more spirits came, and I'm like, damn, I can't believe I never foresaw this, right? And that's what happens when you kind of like, you try to get ahead of yourself. You think you have planned, but the Most High can throw a stumbling block and be like, nope, slow down. Understand that, I control this thing, right? Everything's in my hands, in my power, right? So sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Don't get ahead of yourself. You thinking you on your discipline. I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna break this down. Now you have all these studious works and righteousness you're gonna do, and then all of a sudden, everything's gonna always come through, right? Imagine if the whole nation of Israel was just on fire right now. Hella, I mean, of course, there is various camps on fire. You can see through the works, but I'm talking about more on fire. It's always constant. We just over flood and overtake the internet. This kingdom will fall probably, if not overnight, within a week, right? But at the end of the day, the Most High, He it's a just weight and just balance to how He do these things. But my point in saying that, Salaki, is that what you know a lot of brothers want to do things in righteousness, myself included. But sometimes, we get ahead of ourselves. And then that leaves room open for Satan to kind of distract us, throw us off our game, put us on another path, etc. Right? Or God forbid, overthrow us, right? God forbid. Right. So always remember that anything can happen at any moment. Right. That's why you gotta constantly stay busy, constantly stay occupied. Right. Let me grab this real quick. Classic. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 33, and verse number 27. It says, send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil. Right? So we constantly got to be busy, occupied spiritually as much as we can, whether through the word, through holy conversation with brothers, through righteous works throughout the week, or of course, our regular carnal jobs, right? Constantly, because if you're always busy, you don't, I mean, I'm not, God forbid, but if you're always busy, it's going to be hard for you to get tempted. It's going to be hard for your mind to just go off, right? Not saying it can't, it's not impossible, but you're too occupied, right? And then you're going to be tired. There's always something that you're doing. You got your hands to something, right? Right. So let me grab this precept. Always want to be as productive as possible. You got to ask yourself, what did I get done today? What did I accomplish? Did I read enough? Did I study enough? Did I fast enough? Just because it's the beginning of the week, that shouldn't prevent you or hold you back. There's always more to do, right? There's always more, something someone can bring to the table, something that someone hasn't gone over yet, or dived into, or gone over enough, or needs to touch on again as a refresher, right? You through the flesh, so it's never enough. Y'all always say you got to be as a student, a little child, right? You got to be diligent. That's the book of Proverbs, chapter 25 or 21 in verse 5. Says the thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, meaning increase. Right? When you're diligent enough, and yet you have the right mindset, of course, you're gonna tend to only increase in whatever aspects and capacity you want to increase in. But everyone that is hasty only to want me, once again, you getting ahead of yourself. Sometimes you gotta slow down and move fast. Right? If you're just moving so fast and so quick, I'm gonna do this in this time. I'm gonna do this in that time frame. And plan all this out, and something could just come your way. God forbid somebody in your household get hurt, go to the hospital, a sickness falls upon you, right? You ate something bad, something going on with your body, you have infirmities, right? You start throwing up and get food poison. Anything can happen at any moment. That's why I brought out that precept, right? Say, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, right? So don't get ahead of yourself too much. But guess what? Everyone that's hasty only to want, and it's like people in the world as well. Your so-called drug dealers, your so-called scammers, so-called, thieves, etc. They're hasty to get money, they're hasty to get rich, they're hasty to so-called be on top and get a name for themselves, but they're only gonna want more later. I mean, they're gonna struggle, right? They're gonna need help. They got when they could have just took the right path in the beginning, right, and been diligent during it. Right? Because if you keep working and working and working towards something slowly each and every day, and you're content, you're not just being a waster or a niggard, etc. Guess what? You're going to increase in that aspect. You're going to increase in whatever you put your hand into, right? You may have a job you only make $14 an hour, $15 an hour. It's not the greatest, but it's something. Something is better than nothing. And the more diligent you are, guess what? The more money you're gonna, make over time. It's gonna be hard to save, especially in this economy. But that does not mean that, guess what? That it's never gonna amount to anything. You're never gonna increase. You're never gonna have any plenteousness. Never gonna have. You can't even afford to put food on your plate. You're gonna have something to take care of yourself with, right? It's Most High willing you have a roof over your head as well, right? But once again, when you have these thoughts, that's what prevents you from procrastinating, from going off, right? From doing things you ought not to do, right? So I got a few more. Let me get the book of Acts, chapter 20. Acts, chapter 20, and I'm going to start at verse 9, right? And God forbid this account is any of us through the Spirit, right? And there sat in a window a certain young man named Eutychus, being fallen into a deep sleep. And as Paul was long preaching, he sat down with sleep and fell down from the third loft and was taken out dead. So, God forbid this is, one of you watching this live or is going to watch this live, right? Including myself. God forbid. Right now, you're in a time where you have so much wisdom now to understand. Now, we understand the prophecies, all hell's about to break loose, Jacob's trouble, the famine of the word, persecution. But why you still have the knowledge and wisdom and videos and breakdowns and understanding why you can't? Why not go back over them? Why not watch? Why not refresh your memory and your spirit on these concepts? Gaining that first love zeal, which you first came into the truth, if you've been in this thing a while, right? But then you got those that are just falling asleep, right? And said what? And that was taken up dead. And that's spiritual too, right? Dead means you going back into the world. Your mind goes astray. You going back to the old vomit, like it tells you in Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 16. He that wandereth out of the way of understanding go back, remaineth in the congregation of the dead, right? God forbid there's a brother like this. Now, of course, when you read this account through the grace and mercy of the Most High used Paul to revive this brother. But still, spiritually, it shouldn't be us through the Spirit. We're hearing the word. Oh, it's another Monday Night Fire. Oh, it's another video. Oh, it's another breakdown. What are they going over? I don't heard that. Another exhortation. Not right now, bro. I need to understand, Isaiah 56. I need to understand this parable Hawashai was talking about. God forbid there's a brother or sister that's like that. You are going off. You're just going off essentially, right? And he sunk down and fell down from the third lot and he was taken up dead, right? And that's because he wasn't taking the word serious. That's what happens with procrastination, right? You put something off. You choose to put something off. You choose not to listen to the words of the Lord. You choose not to listen to the instructions that's been given. You refuse to, do what's commanded of you, which is to occupy and watch. Because you postponing, when the Most High is going to shake this place. And when Yahweh Shai is going to return, right? And that's why Yahweh Shai said this. I'm going to grab my closing precept. Right? So Most High willing, this gave a little bit of insight on doing what? On understanding procrastination and overcoming this demon in spirit, right? And understand this is not a light thing, right? Let me grab this real quick. It's the book of Luke, chapter 19. Because you want to have, Most High willing, a regimen each and every week. And if you don't, you're going off, right? And if you don't and you haven't, I wouldn't say you're going off necessarily, but you're going off somehow, some way, because there's no way you could be in this truth and you don't know yourself to know that, all right, you got to have a schedule. I got to go to work. I might want to go to the gym. I got to put time here and there. You kind of orchestrate these things, right, within your daily life and figure out when you get time to the Lord, right? Yahweh shall say, I stand at the door and knock in Revelation, the 3rd chapter. So if he keeps knocking and you just won't open up or you tearing, he might leave. He might just leave, right? You standing up Yahweh Shai. And you read about that in the book of Song of Solomon, chapter 4. Actually, before I bring this closing precept, I'm going to grab that. The book of Song of Solomon. The book of Song of Solomon, chapter 4. No, Salaki. I think it's 5. Yep. Chapter 5. Song of Solomon, chapter 5, and verse 4. It says, my beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels will move for him. That's the first time you heard this word. You heard, Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You heard that you was an Israelite. You heard Yahweh Shai was a so-called black man. You heard the Israelites are God's chosen people. You were moved by that, right? That did something to you. It touched you a certain way, right? Verse 5, it says, I rose up to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh and fingers with sweet smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lot. I mean, you couldn't wait to, understand this, read this, go into this, right? Tell somebody this, right? Show them this. Watch this with me. So on and so forth. Call somebody. You couldn't wait. You rose up. I'm about to do it. You about to open the door of your house shy and get all of what comes with them, right? Get all that what comes with your house shy. Verse 5. I open to my beloved, but my beloved haven't. It's like my beloved haven't drawn himself. Meaning you take too long, right? You procrastinate, you tearing from or putting off from day to day. You're not really seeking the Lord while you still have the chance. Guess what? Yahweh is going to withdraw himself. Yes, you are standing up Yahweh at the door. It's basically you in your house right now. Somebody's knocking at the door. It's Yahweh, but he keeps knocking and knocking, but you don't grab it, right? You really just going off. That's an off spirit. And he says, and was gone, and my soul failed. When he spake, I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. Right? Because once Yahweh is gone, it's done. It's a wrap. It's over. Right? When God forbid the spirit leaves you, it's a wrap. Right? You turn into essentially you turn into a reprobate. You go back in the world, go back in the darkness, go back into sin. Right? So that's why you gotta do what Yahweh said. Right? Which is what? It's the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 11. It says, as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of God should immediately appear. Right? Verse 12. I started at 11. Verse 12. And he said, therefore, a certain nobleman went to a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. Right? And this is what's going to help you overcome that procrastination spirit, that demon. Because, a brother may say, I'm dealing with slothfulness. Okay, you're dealing with slothfulness. I'm dealing with idleness. All right, I get that you idle. But why is that? It's because you procrastinate on what you got to get done. You know what you have to do to the spirit. You have to keep the commandments. You have to, have faith in Yahweh. Yeah, those are small things. But what now do you have to do for the body? What now do you have to do for your brothers, your wife, your household, for sisters, etc.? You have to be occupied. And you have to figure out which works are applicable enough to do so, to grow in that and increase in that, right? And not be diligent. It tell you what in the book of Proverbs, chapter 12 and verse 24. Let's grab it. I said that'd be my last closing precept. But let's grab it. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 12. It's Proverbs 12 and 24. It says, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Right? The hand of the diligent shall bear rule. We're trying to take... One of the things that we always say, well, at camp, you got to take the kingdom, right? That's something that Priest of Box said, HOY. What we going to do? We're going to take the kingdom. So if we're going to do that and supposed to do that, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, we have to be diligent. We have to be, adamant about it as well, each and every day. It never stops. There's no person that can just say, I'm taking a day off from the truth. I'm taking a day off from reading. I'm taking a day off because you do that long enough or more than you should, you're going to forget a lot of things. The spirit essentially some of the spirit is going to leave you. The spirit of memory, the spirit of understanding the accounts, the application, that discipline, right? It's more than just understanding, or what this precept says. All right, bet I know where it's at, because the application, the discipline comes with it as well, right? But it only do so when what? You be diligent, shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Right? And that's what happens when you're putting on from day to day. That's what happens when you're not occupied. Right? And Yahweh Shai gave you what? 10 pounds. I mean, he gave his servants a certain amount of tasks to complete, a certain amount of tasks to do and fulfill. Right? So don't be the brother, don't be the sister where it's not as serious. It's not really a big deal. I'll do it tomorrow. I want to, it's 2 chapters, 4 chapters. That's decent enough. Well, if you can get in more, all praise to the Most High. If you could always do more, don't slack, right? It tell you in Micah that you got to be in pain and labor, right, to bring forth this kingdom. Micah chapter 4 verse 10 on down. It tell you in Isaiah chapter 62 verse 5 on 6 that the watchmen shall not hold their peace day or night till Jerusalem become a praise in the earth. Right, so these things should never lose our minds. These things should never flee, our thoughts. These things should never, go away from our works as well, our hands, right? Of course, we have our own, lives of what we got to do on a day to day, but the Most High always come first because He gave you all of that, anyways, right? But with that, Israel, Most High willingness to be edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? That procrastination demon is nothing to play with, right? And these are the accounts of certain men of the nation of Israel and what happened to them, right? When they're not moving, not only in the right spirit, but when they're dealing with that spirit of what procrastination, right? Something is delaying. I want to do my own thing. I want to go my own route, right? And the Most High confound you and overthrow you because what? You wasn't doing what you're supposed to do in the first place, right? You wasn't being as diligent as you should, right? But with that, Israel, Most High will not be edifying. Shalom.